Sleepless, where we review, discuss, and reimagine popular movie lists objectively. We're your hosts. I'm Jerry.
And I'm Brad, and on this episode, we'll be exploring number 45 from AFI's 100 Years, 100 Passions, the 100 Greatest Love Stories of All Time.
And number 45 is Sleepless in Seattle, released in 1993, directed by Nora Ephron, starring Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan.
The synopsis for this romantic dramedy is as follows. Chicago architect Sam Baldwin, played by Tom Hanks, loses his wife to cancer. He and his 8-year-old son, Jonah, move to Seattle to begin a new life, but continue to mourn. A year later, on Christmas Eve, Jonah calls into a radio talk show and persuades a reluctant Sam to go on and talk about how much he misses his wife. Thousands of women across the country hear his story and are touched. One of them is Annie Reed, played by Meg Ryan, an engaged Baltimore Sun reporter. Sam's story makes her evaluate her relationship with Walter and realize something is missing. After watching An Affair to Remember, Annie writes a letter suggesting they meet on top of the Empire State Building on Valentine's Day. She doesn't mail it, but her friend and editor Becky does, and also sends her to Seattle on assignment. Sam begins dating co-worker Victoria, who Jonah dislikes. When Jonah reads Annie's letter, he instinctively feels she's the one, but fails to convince Sam to go to New York. At the urging of his friend Jessica, Jonah replies to Annie, agreeing to meeting in New York. While dropping Victoria off at the airport, Sam sees Annie and is mesmerized, even though he has no idea who she is. Annie later watches Sam and Jonah from afar playing on the beach. The next day, she goes to Sam's houseboat. She sees him with his sister Susie, who she assumes is his girlfriend. Sam recognizes her from the airport and says hello. Annie responds with hello before leaving. She returns home and meets Walter in New York for Valentine's Day. With Jessica's help, Jonah flies to New York to meet Annie. Sam gets on the next available flight to go after him and finds him on the observation deck of the Empire State Building. They amicably end their engagement and she hurries to the Empire State Building. On the observation deck, she finds Sam and Jonah.
Okay, so a couple of firsts. One, first Nora Ephron on the list.
I think she's written something that's been on the list. I'm trying to think.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm trying to think. She wrote something that's on the list.
Oh, okay. Never mind then. But what is very interesting about this love story is they don't meet until the end.
Yeah.
Which is kind of unique.
It's really goes against all kinds of convention with that kind of stuff. Nice thing though is after several movies on this list, we're actually talking about a love story. That's great.
Yes, it is great. Like, finally, like, this is the focus of the whole movie, right?
Yeah. It's really it's a very clever script using another movie, which I think is on the list.
It is. It's pretty high up there, too.
Using An Affair to Remember as kind of a plot device within your movie. It's kind of a clever thing to do.
It is. And the thing that makes this movie so great, to be honest, is its supporting cast.
Yeah.
Because they're never together until the ending scene.
Well, that's kind of a Nora Ephron thing. I mean, your favorite movie of all time, the supporting cast are really what makes the movie, right?
Yes. So you got Jonah, who's plays Tom Hanks' son, who's super cute and like super mature, and he's going through his own thing. I mean, he's an 8-year-old kid who's lost his mom, and he's also at the same time his dad is sad. So the one person he has in his life is super sad, and like he's kind of made it his mission in life to basically find the woman who's not only going to be his new mom, but also, love his dad. And that's a tall order to find someone who's not only going to love you, but your kid. And, the way he reacts to Victoria is freaking so great. I mean, it's so funny.
She has this absolutely obnoxious laugh, and he has this one eye roll thing where he's just like,
oh God.
Really, lady?
Yeah, and his dad's like, why aren't you being nice to her? Be nice to her. And he's like, but Dad, she's annoying, you know? Also great spring cast is Susie and Greg. Rita Wilson and Victor Garber. Rita Wilson plays Tom Hanks' sister.
Which is weird.
It's kind of weird, but whatever.
She's his wife in real life.
Yeah, but it's really cute. Like, they hang out, and then they come to visit him in Seattle, and they start talking about An Affair to Remember and how amazing it is.
And they, like, start getting misty about it.
Yeah.
And then the two guys kind of make fun of them by doing it. Was it A Bridge Too Far?
It was like Bridges of the River Kwai or something.
I think it was A Bridge Too Far.
Oh, okay.
Where they're like making fun of it. It's really, really funny.
It's really funny. And actually, I read that was improvised.
Was it really?
Yeah, their reaction of laughing at it and pretending like it was really,
great.
that was improvised.
And then
Walter.
Yeah, Walter's played by Bill Pullman.
Unsung hero. I kind of feel bad for Walter.
I do too. But
he's not a bad guy.
No, but you know what? The thing that's important about how they have them break up is it's Walter's decision.
Yes.
Walter basically says, I deserve better than what you're giving me. Yeah. I deserve to have someone who isn't wishy-washy about being with me.
Yeah.
Which she agrees with because he's a good dude.
He is a good dude.
He treats her well.
Yes.
He's like doing all this stuff. He's trying to fit in with her family, and they're just not the right fit.
No, and he even says, he's like, if the love of your life is on that building, and I'm responsible for not doing that, he's like, you're gonna like regret me forever.
Yeah.
And he's just very sensible about it. Yeah. And
then Rosie O'Donnell plays
Becky. She's great.
She's fantastic.
She's really great.
She's got like, she gets all the like the great sarcastic Nora Ephron lines.
Yes.
And she delivers them perfectly.
And she's really funny and a good friend to Annie. Yeah. Trying to help her like find her dreams and like follow this path she wants to go on. And it's a really good movie.
It really is.
It is. And
I mean, you've got one of, like, this is probably the best romantic pairing since the ones that you find in like the 40s and the 50s.
Yeah, like
this is like they're only in a few movies together, but Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan are absolutely like gold on screen.
They really are, and they didn't share a lot of screen time.
No, and especially
on this movie.
In this movie, they've got maybe 3 minutes of screen time. So the first time that they share the screen together is when he sees her
at the airport,
and that's like way past the halfway point in the movie. And there's just like a quick thing there, and then I guess you could consider them sharing the screen when she's watching them on the beach.
Yeah.
And then the next day, like, she sees him, but she sees him with Susie and figures they're together, and she almost gets like hit by a car, and he sees her, and he goes up and he's like, hello, and she's just like, says hello, and then just runs off. And then they don't share another moment of screen time until the very, very end when they meet on the observation deck after kind of she goes up, they're not there. Jonah forgot his backpack, so they had to go back up. She finds the backpack, she's holding the backpack, and they come up the elevator, and they share the screen. It's probably less than 3 minutes, actually.
Yeah, and both Tom Hanks and the kid that plays Jonah, they're both smitten with her right away.
Yeah.
Even the little guy. He's like looking at his dad and looking at her, and he's like, oh my God, this is great.
Yeah.
He's really excited. And the relationship between him and his son is really sweet.
Yeah.
They're they're in it together. The mom's gone, and he's like, I want to make sure you're okay.
Yeah.
And the son's like, I want to make sure you're okay.
And they have, like, when they fight, it's realistic. It's the kind of fight that two people who love each other very much have.
Yes.
Where they're so angry at each other for being stupid that they don't know how, they just kind of they act almost irrationally.
Yeah.
That's realistic. The reason that this movie works is you buy right away why Meg Ryan would fall in love with this guy without ever meeting him. When he's he kind of gets, coerced to go on to this radio show. And he starts talking about his wife, and he talks about, how idyllic the relationship was and what it meant to him. And, as a guy, knowing, how women tend to react to stuff, they're seeing this guy who clearly recognizes all the value that his wife had in the world and what she meant, and every woman that's listening to this radio show
is falling in love with this guy.
It's falling in love with this guy and crying over him, and basically before everyone there's getting all these call-ins with all these women trying to get his number and stuff like that,
and he gets all this fan mail basically.
And that's the funny thing, is Jonah's going through all the fan mail, so by the time he gets to Annie's letter, he's who knows how many of these things he's read, and he's like, I got a feeling about this one.
Hey Dad. Yeah, and also something else on the other side that really is believable is she goes on this trip to see him, and she says hello, and that was it. And she's talking to Becky on the phone, and she says, what am I doing? What am I doing here? Why?
Yeah,
what?
I've got Walter. He's great.
He's great. He's a great guy. Why am I?
Yeah, but
why am I doing this?
But again, that first scene really sets the stage, because she's sitting there and she's having, she's listening to this guy and the way that he loves his wife, and she knows in her heart that she does not and probably will never love Walter that way, and she understands immediately something in her relationship is missing, and she's got to figure it out.
Well, she even talks to her mom about it and was like, how did you know with Dad? Right. And she's like, you just know.
Yeah. And it's
magic.
It's annoying for people when you get that answer, but it's really, really true. You don't know until you meet the person.
Yeah.
I met you, and it was just wow. It was a wow moment for me. It was wow. And you can't tell someone what that feels like. It's going to feel different for them than for any other person, but You're going to
make me cry.
You know what I'm saying? It's you just,
Yeah.
And you can't tell, if you don't know when you're with someone, that's not the person.
Right.
If they haven't.
Or if it is the person that you're going to be with, it's going to be hard.
Yeah. Well, it's if you haven't had that moment where your whole future's out in front of you and any other person you've ever been with doesn't compare, it's just not going to. It's not something you can quantify. It's not something you can tell someone else, this is what's going to happen if you do this, and this is
right.
It's different for every person.
Of course.
When it happens, you know it.
This one, though, it deals a little bit with fate. Because she has a lot of similarities to his wife that passed.
Yeah.
And it's very subtle, the way she cuts an apple and all that. But, it's a little bit, and honestly, the way the story lays out, there had to be some sort of magic or fate involved. Because, she was one out of how many letters that he received.
Yeah.
She saw him, he saw her, right, and fell in love with her right at first sight. I mean, there was magic involved.
Yeah.
Had to be. So.
This is a really good one. I gave it a 77. Jerry gave it a 70, so the list score is 73.5.
All right. Well, if you have comments, if you enjoyed this story as much as we did, please leave a comment or like and subscribe as well if you're interested in what the content we're providing. Also, if you'd like to contact us directly, please contact us at ratingthelist@gmail.com. But for now, we're Rating the List. I'm Jerry.
And I'm Brad.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.